So far, 2021 has been one of dominance for one J.R. Shepherd. So far, in the span of 5 BRL Asphalt Series competition sanctioned races, he has come home with the checker flag in 4 of them, including a chance to get the full sweep tonight at the Bullring at Las Vegas. He's been one of the series' all-time greats. The question is, can he keep it up, and can he go 2 for 2 in the Grand National Series? We're about to find out on the Global SimRacing Channel. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the virtual Bullring at Las Vegas Motor Speedway for Race 2 of the 2021 Season 1 campaign for the Bootleg Racing League's Grand National Series. I'm Justin Prince. Along some of the booth tonight is DJ Clark. Behind the scenes, our director, Sean Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. A lot of drivers have made their names here at the Bullring at Las Vegas. Let's learn more about this circuit with our GSRC track guy.
Welcome to the Bullring at Las Vegas. The Bullring at Las Vegas is a jewel of short track racing out in the middle of the desert. This little circuit is located a stone's throw away from the 1.5-mile tri-oval that is the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. The Bullring is the asphalt oval that's short on distance but long on action with that short track competition. Very little banking is there to help the drivers get around. 9 degrees of banking in the corner with 4 to 7 degrees awaiting on the straights. The apron can be very inviting as a spot to run to, but there are some rumble strips down there that are designed to prevent drivers from getting that low. The Bullring's fast pace really makes you focus as a driver. The straights are just long enough to give you time to take a breath and get yourself set up for corner entry. Best way to get around here is just kind of fall into a rhythm, like a good old-fashioned rocking chair. Steady hands connected with steady feet operating the gas and the brake pedal is the way to find victory lane out here in the Bullring. This has been our guide to the Bullring at Las Vegas. Enjoy the short track show.
Look at our GSRC track guide for the Bullring at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Now let's bring my broadcast partner for tonight, DJ Clark, as your expectations and what we should see for tonight's racing action here. This is a series staple that we're at tonight.
Well, Justin, we've seen it time in and time out. The Bullring always providing good racing, and the way to handle it in these ARCA cars in the Grand National Series is really getting down to that low line and being patient off of the corner. The best way to get a pass done is going to be able to dive in low and be a little bit hesitant, fight the understeer that's going to be coming off of the corner, and position your car to dive down under the nose of your opponent off of the corners to set yourself up for a dive into the next one. It's going to be good racing. I expect a little bit of outside line work, but I really think that low line is going to be the way to go.
It's been the tradition when it comes to this track and this series. The question is, who's going to be able to stick the bottom? I think so as well. Now, let's take a look at how things turned out for the open race, the campaign, as well as the first race, the Moonshine Challenge, where J.R. Shepherd took home the victory over James Lowe, Kenny Kibbe, Justin Morton, Adam Gamble was your top 5 for that respective race. All of them separated by 1 point apiece. 4 points separating first to 5th position on the pylon. Todd Liston, keep in mind, is in that provisional pole spot. We'll talk about that a little bit more later on. Now, speaking of which, let's take a look towards your race details for tonight's action.
Well, we are working on the second of 11 rounds here in the Grand National Series 2021 Season 1. It is a 100-lap race, as it always is in this series, and there are no tire changes at all, so these guys have got to be watching their tires, although it's a little cooler tonight, so I don't think that's going to play too much of a factor. One fast fare for drivers that get into a little bit damage, and the key things that makes this series so spectacular: inversion from the top 8 of the last race. So no qualifying, those top 8 will be inverted. Shepherd starting in the 8th position, so that always makes for some spicy action, especially early on in the race.
Indeed, as these drivers work their way around for practice, you mentioned the cool track conditions. 70 degrees Fahrenheit is your track temp, 65 degrees is the air temp. The wind's currently gusting 6 miles an hour to the northwest. Check that, 7 miles an hour Very low humidity as well on iRacing Day, May 15th, 2021, approaching 8 p.m. Eastern time. So Shepard looking to carry a lot of momentum tonight after coming away with the victories earlier tonight in the street stock and the Tour modified races. He currently is on top of the practice charts with 15-2-1-1 over Kenny Kibbe, Mark Herzog, Jason Menda, James Lowe, your top 5 on the board at the moment. So a lot of drivers looking to carry momentum from that opening race, but also from some of the other races throughout the night, PJ.
Yeah, there's a lot of good momentum to have here, and on such a short little bull ring like that, momentum is key. Momentum and rhythm. You need to get into the groove of feeling it out. Just absolutely hit your marks time in and time out. What's going to be really telling is watching to see how people are going to be able to recover, though. If somebody does sell that inside move like we talked about, will they be able to recover, get back onto a good line, and get back into that rhythm? Or will they be thrown and start to fall down the order, as we've seen a couple of times?
Kenny Kibbe was near identical in pace for reference sake in the Tour modified race earlier on tonight, but drivers who are looking to try and get some positive momentum compared to those races earlier, and for those at North Wilkesboro, Mark Herzog and Donnie Moore were given warnings for over-aggressive, avoidable contact. Those drivers will have to keep in mind of their race cars. Perfect timing for Mark Herzog because he spins it off the corner. As well, we mentioned James Lowe, who's now third on the practice charts. He was leading the modified race earlier tonight, TJ, by almost 2 seconds before a crash happened on the front stretch. He got collected in it, went to the back of the field, got collected in the next incident, DNF'd in that one. So he's looking for some positive momentum after what started off as a good night and turned into a sour middle portion.
Well, and that's one of the things to keep in mind on these super short tracks. We didn't get a whole lot of it last week out at North Wilkesboro, but here at the Bullring, lap traffic is going to play a massive key to how these guys will perform. If you are the leader, you have got to be very cognizant not only of how to get past them, but being cognizant of what the lapped cars in front of you are doing. There's not a whole lot of room to maneuver, and if there's a big pileup, we have seen guys get collected there, so you've got to be on your toes constantly, as now we watch Bruce Pearson working his way around, running a little bit of a high line as he lets, I think that's, I thought that was Justin Morton, it turns out it's not. It's Jason Menda, dive down under him.
Menda, we've seen at times have some good speed. He's run some various races at various different types of racetracks. But you mentioned trying to preserve the right front, specifically with the understeer when describing some of the conditions here. Keep in mind some of these drivers we've seen have been losing the right rear, almost getting snapped loose off turn 4. How tricky do you feel it's going to be to come off these corners tonight with how aggressive some of these drivers are expecting on the throttle compared to the others?
Well, it's going to be difficult. Any of these little bullring tracks, it really tests your patience. The way to fight that snap oversteer that you sometimes can get if you catch the lip of the banking just wrong, or the understeer, is just being very patient, waiting to put that throttle on and being very slow and progressive with how you put it on. That is the way to counter any of that tire wear that you will experience. And the problem is going to be is that I think you will see some guys be overly aggressive, dare I say, at the start of the races. There you see the 11 of Ruben Altis having a little bit of a moment there. You'll see a lot of guys be very aggressive at the beginning, maybe move up some spots. We saw it last week. Guys that save the tires a little bit, maybe fall back a position or two in the opening laps of the race. If they're watching for tire wear over the course of this 100 laps, they may be able to move towards the pointy end of the field near the checkered flag.
That car you just seen pull off the pit lane, by the way, we talked about the inversion spots, will be the driver who looks to control the field, Todd Liston, for the green flag. That could be tricky tonight for him, Mark Herzog, those drivers up in the front. How difficult do you feel the passing is going to be once the green flag flies as well tonight, especially with the potential of attrition? Just so happens those drivers are 1-2 in the pit box lineup.
You know, it's going to be tricky. This is one of those tracks that overtaking is at a premium, and one of the ways to do it, frankly, is to take advantage of your rivals. It's keeping right under that rear fender and just pushing them into a mistake and capitalizing when it actually happens. So that, truthfully, is the best way by, as if you try to get a little over-aggressive sometimes, like I talked about, you try to get a little bit too aggressive on that throttle and it'll end up putting you into a mistake. So just having the patience and the sense of mind to keep the pressure on is going to be the way by here tonight.
So as these drivers continue their practice laps, there are 4 minutes to go until the drivers roll their way towards the starting grid, following along with the 24 of Austin Belkey, who's now at the 4th in practice. We've seen him improve a ton in 2020. Your thoughts on Austin Belkey and what he could do tonight as he's throwing back again to one of Jeff Gordon's cars, the $1 million date car tonight for him.
I always love watching Austin's schemes in this series. As he's always got some good throwbacks. But no, I think Austin has shown both in this and in the other GSR series, the Dirt Street Stock series on Friday nights, he's shown a lot of improvement over the past couple of months. Belkey had a very good run at the start of last week's race, fell back a little bit, wasn't as good on preserving his tires, so that's something he's going to want to be watching out for here tonight. But Belkey's improvement has been noticeable in both series that are broadcasted, so he is one that I think we definitely want to keep an eye on.
Interestingly enough, by the way, the car he is throwing back to what ran in 1997 and was actually considered, for some, a rare collectible for the diecast industry, the 124 scale and 164. So, interestingly enough, I'm going to throw back to one of the more rarer cars that you see for this race machine back from the day. See if he's able to harness the skills of Jeff Gordon for this one. 2 minutes to go until the drivers roll to the green flag towards the grid rounder for tonight's action. DJ, your drivers to watch for tonight.
Well, my drivers to watch, I think Austin Belkey is going to be one of them. Obviously, J.R. Shepard is going to be one to watch, and that goes without saying, him starting in 8th position to work his way through the field. I also think Kenny Kibbe, who you see on your screen there, is one to watch. Kenny's been having some really good runs as of late, as now we watch him dive down into the pits. He's one that I want to keep my eye on. I also think watching what Mark Herzog is going to do, as well as Donnie Moore. You know, both of those guys have warnings on their record. Is that going to be a little bit of a heads up to them? Are they going to want to hold back a little bit, maybe lose a couple of positions? Or are they going to take that as a challenge and say, no, you know what, I've got to prove that I'm better than this warning that I've got?
Of note, Mark Herzog, top 5 in practice, still in the number 57 machine. Donnie Moore, not at the racetrack at the moment, with 1 minute to be able to rush his way on in. The currently separation to keep in mind on the practice charts, just 3 tenths tonight, DJ. From the fastest times to slowest times, Shepard, Kibbe, low, Belkey, Herzog at the top of the board. Chris Davis at the very bottom of the board with 15.5.
Well, and that 0.3 of a second, to those of us that are a little more familiar with big super speedway racing or even road course racing, may seem like it is an astronomical amount, but the truth is, or it may seem like a very small amount. The truth is on a very tight short track like this, that is a pretty big amount. With putting in laps at just 15 seconds, 0.3, you're going to be catching up to these guys relatively quickly if we're able to stay green over the course of this race. Although it is worth mentioning that Kibbe being only 36 thousandths off of Shepard for that top spot, and Lowe only being 57 thousandths behind them. That is very tight.
It's going to be an interesting race tonight to see who's got not only the short run pace, but also who's able to wheel their way to the checker flag on the long runs tonight, as well as who's able to stay out of the attrition. Race trends have seen some long green flag runs, but also keep in mind there have been races where caution flags have been potential possibilities. We'll see how things fare out as the drivers have finished up their practice. Overall, 18 drivers have made their way to the Bullring at Las Vegas Motor Speedway for tonight's action for the BRL's Grand National Series. Let's get ready to take a look at how they'll start tonight's action. As mentioned, Todd Liston and Mark Herzog will bring them to the green flag tonight in the inversion spots, with Ruben Altes in 3rd position. Justin Morton will start in 4th today. He'll look to try and keep the right rear underneath his car, with Kenny Kibbe in 5th. James Lowe will look to recover after a rough tour modified race earlier on tonight. He finished 2nd, though, in the street stock race. He'll start in 6th. J.R. Shepard rounds out the inversion spots for tonight via attendance in 7th. Chris Davis will start in 8th position, with Chris Wolfson in 9th. Austin Belkey will round out your top 10.
Starting off in 11th will be Bruce Pearson, followed by Joe Segala to his outside. Row 7 made up of Mike Allen and Jeffrey Harden. Lowell Jewell, series organizer, will start off in 15th, followed by Kurt Smith in 16th, and rounding out your last row will be Jason Benda and Tim Shinuski.
Let's look top to bottom at your starting grid tonight. 9 rows of race cars have made their way once again to the virtual Las Vegas, Nevada for today's action. Your final keys to victory for tonight, as the track, keep in mind, has cooled down an additional 2 degrees. That is a little bit more grip for these cars.
Well, Justin, it's going to be patience with these temperatures getting low. You've got to be careful. It's going to take a second for the tires to get up to temperature. So you want to be patient off of these starts and restarts. And as we've talked about, 100 laps is a lot of time to spend on the tight, twisty confines of the Bullring here. Be patient off the corners and wait for the best opportunity to attack. Don't try to make one for yourself and end up in the wall.
Many drivers have lost control coming off of turn 2 in this series in multiple different types of cars. There's also that bottle-up effect down the front straightaway. But for Todd Liston, he's looking to wheel his car at the front of the field to the green flag with Mark Herzog. iRacing pace car is off, green flag is out. We're underway for the Bullring at Las Vegas.
Good start there for Todd Liston, able to get it down. We've got our first spinner. That's Kibby and Davis, I believe.
That's James Lowe, in fact, and several more involved. Jeffrey Hart and Kurt Smith also stopped along the outside wall to start things off. And a rough start for this race.
Justin, we talked about it right at the top, how easy it is to get collected on a very narrow groove surface like this. We jump back to the replay here. You will see right in the center of your screen, that is the 99 of James Lowe, and it looks like Chris Davis just carries way too much speed through the corner, collects Lowe up into the wall, and Lowe has nowhere to go. Looks like that 44 behind him, that was a separate incident.
Yeah, that's Jeffrey Harden. He said earlier tonight that he was just looking to finish a race. 2 DNFs to start off on the night. It's Kurt Smith who gets him in the check-up effect. The 07 of Shinuski also getting some damage in that one. So, 5+ cars involved in the first caution flag of the night. And now they'll look to regroup, and that's going to open up some decisions for some of the drivers if they use the fast repairs or try and get manual repairs now, since a lot of them now have fenders crunched in, and James Lowe is at the back again for a BRL race tonight.
James is going to have some work to do, and both of those incidents very, very similar. Drivers not exactly taking my advice. I'm trying to be a little bit cautious at the start. Both drivers on the high line, just carrying a little bit too much speed in there. Kurt Smith and Chris Davis carrying too much speed and just running into the back of their competitors. So I think that'll be a little bit of a heads up to everybody in the field to maybe try to take it a little bit easier on this next restart.
Of note, Tim Shinuski has used his fast repair in the 07 machine. He originally spent more than 7 seconds getting damage repair done. He had pushed up his front grille and crushed it in. 2 drivers will have to take wave around, Smith and Harden, to get their lap back to be able to compete on the lead lap. Here's the thing when it comes to a spin as well, and especially with this tire model, keep in mind, DJ, is that could cost you a ton of time in the long run, since you've used up a ton of percentage and total heat on that tire.
Exactly. iRacing hasn't exactly figured out how to get the flat spot effect on the tires, but it is certainly noticeable when you have a massive incident like that and you lock it up. So that's going to really wear down on these tires.
It works almost like it, like in terms of that regard. But we'll try this again, shall we? Todd Liston, Mark Herzog in control of the field. Justin Morton, Ruben Altes in row 2. Kibby, now Davis in row 3. Row 4, Shepard and Wolfson. Off and away goes Todd Liston. And this time, a cleaner launch. In fact, Ruben Altes sent it really hard, trying to make sure he didn't get hit in the back end by Chris Davis's car.
He did indeed. Good looks there from him as you watch Justin Morton starting to really challenge Mark Herzog. Pushing down to the inside, taking that line away from him. Herzog has to slide into third, and it looks like Kibby's going to start to take a look at him here. Kibby able to get a little bit of narrow over an exit off of turn 2.
Todd Liston trying to hold on to the race lead right now, defending right to the white line. Keep in mind, James Lowe has already gone to 12th position. 15 Fords being rammed by the top cars at the moment. Kibby trying to gain some time up on Shepard and company as the battle for the race lead. Liston loses the bottom. Justin Morton takes it away at the strike.
And that's exactly what I was talking about there, Justin, is diving that car down low off of the exit to try to get a better run into 3. And now you see Mark Herzog trying to do it. You can see what happens when you get pushed up on that high line, as here comes Kenny Kibbe up through challenging Liston as well.
Mark Herzog scraped the bit of the wall. Todd Liston still stuck on the top line. Altice has found a hole in the bottom line. Kibbe, though, is clear. Shepard now looks to get himself clear in the different Path Motorsports machine. And just about did. Todd Liston, though, keeps the fender. 89 laps to go as Altice is now to the inside. Liston has already been shuffled to as far back as 6th.
Liston has got to be praying for Altice to get by so he can get back down onto that bottom line. You see there just how much time you can lose if you are stuck on the high line. But there you see J.R. Shepard really starting to work on Kenny Kibbe here. Gets that better run off the corner. I think he's going to have it. He does have the inside line into 3.
And J.R. Shepard, he's been quick throughout the night, right by Kenny Kibbe. And now the question is, can they get to Morton and Herzog in a quick manner, or will they take their time? Separation is about 7/10 to those respective cars. As you can see from behind, drivers are still single filing out for the most part throughout the field. The first side-by-side is Allen and Lowell Jewell at the moment.
Yeah, you can see they're looking back, just everybody trying to find that line. I have to give massive credit here to Mark Herzog, really out to prove himself here tonight, doing a great job sticking with Justin Morton up front as J.R. Shepard sets the fastest lap of the race.
That fastest lap was about a couple 1,000ths quicker than Mark Herzog's previous best lap. 2 1,000ths quicker than Morton, as nearly snapping it was Mark Herzog coming off of turn 4. That cost him about half a second now to your race leader. Take a look at how much he's having to wheel this car in the corners. He is really sending it hard.
Well, I'd take complete total responsibility for that commentator's curse, so sorry about that, Mark, but really good job of holding on to the car as he lost it off of the corner. That he is starting to catch back up ever so slightly, though he's clearly got something for Morton, but Morton doing exactly what he needs to do, just holding down to that inside line through the turns.
You can see from the onboard, sending it a little bit harder this time to gain another half a 10th. J.R. Shepard, though, is the quickest car on the racetrack by about a 10th a lap. He is coming in quick. Herzog again clips the apron with the left rear tire, again scrapes the wall with the right rear tire. Still can't get back to the 9 machine as Shepard is now only 3 car lengths back.
Yeah, Herzog is really, really hustling that thing, driving it over. And now if I'm sitting in that blue 57, I've got to start thinking about tire wear. He is running very hard and only 20 laps down here, so he's got a long way to go, and he's got to be careful he doesn't over-scrub those tires.
Remember, he has talked about, and we've seen, his ability to save tires even with consistent quick pace. It is not easy, to say the very least. Going on board now, and you can see, look at the motions on the steering wheel. He is keeping it nice and smooth, trying to close up to these cars.
And that's the way you've got to do it, Justin, is you just have to be smooth as can be. Just a little bit of correction coming off the corner to make sure he gets it right. But now he is starting to hassle Herzog. You see how much he is able to close up under braking on the exit of turn 3. Herzog trying to get that inside line away from Morton, but Morton defending it well. And you can see Shepard able to dive it a little bit lower off at 2. That's where I think he's going to see an advantage coming in the next couple of laps.
J.R. Shepard scraped the wall down the back straightaway. That cost him about half a car length down into 3 and 4. Now Shepard looking to reset there with 75 laps to go this time. Of note, Lowell Jewell has pulled off the racetrack. He's now in the pit lane in the 19 machine. He was running the back part of the field. So the boss man is off the circuit for the time being. And to get back to the steering motions, we've seen how many quick reflexes and catch-ups Herzog was having off the corners. Those are all looking like they're starting to build up. Justin Morton really backing up these top 3 as well. Keep in mind, Kenny Kibbe is still hanging on in the wings in case these cars start fighting hard.
He is indeed Kibbe in that popcorn position, just waiting as it looks like Shepard really able to dive the car into the corner a little bit more. You've seen him here 2 laps in a row taking that wider entry into 1. Little wiggle off off the line. That may have cost him ever so slightly. I thought he was going to have a run in 3, but he's got to check back up again behind Herzog and wait another day.
Taking a look as again Herzog's continuing to rip apart that right rear quarter panel. Shepard takes advantage to the inside for second spot. Looking to stick into the white line, and Herzog gives him the space, gives Shepard second.
Textbook maneuver there from J.R. Shepard, just taking an advantage of pressure on Herzog. Herzog falling back, lucky not to get caught on the outside by Kenny Kibbe, so he'll be able to keep there and now has to keep Kibbe at bay. Let's see what J.R. Shepard can do to Justin Morton, though, as Morton has been an absolute master of holding that inside line.
Looking for his first win since all the way back towards Martinsville back in early 2020 in the series. Still 69 to go for Morton. J.R. Shepard still up to a tenth a second quicker than your race leader, as Morton has really struggled on long runs throughout the series since that victory.
He has, and we're only about a third of the way done with this race, but he looks like he's got it there. Very wide line for Morton, though, but he was able to carry a lot of momentum out of the corner, so that's a little bit interesting. Normally you'd see that line compromising him, but Shepard just very calmly stalking here. I don't think JR is in any rush to make a move. He is just sizing up his opponent at this moment.
It's a good opportunity to save tires, to say the very least right now with 66 to go. Lots of time to work with. Of note, Todd Liston is under attack from Austin Belkey. Ruben Altis has been able to finally pass by him as well. So the 87 continuing to go backwards on the racetrack. He's now in 7th.
Yeah, and it looked like it was a little bit of the same story on a different lap there for Liston, as Altis was just able to get onto his inside, get down on him, and that pushed him up to that outside line, and it allowed for Belkey to move his way up as well. But we're going to stay with this battle up front, as J.R. Shepard not letting anything get by, keeping right up with Justin Morton, but they've got some lap traffic coming up here pretty soon.
Bruce Pearson, Jeffrey Harding, Kurt Smith will be the first cars they reach already. They have closed in nearly 13 seconds on the back part of the field. It'll be Bruce Pearson separated by 2 seconds. The next grouping of cars, and the next grouping of cars, keep in mind, or he reaches the 13th. Then you have a big gaggle of cars they could try and get to as well. That includes the battle for 5th position. Right now, these cars are running a 10th to 3/10 quicker than the rest of the field, the rest of the pack. As here's that battle going on we talked about. Belkey to the inside, wants the top 5.
Really good move there from Belkey to just absolutely get that car perfectly stopped on the apex of 1. He's going to hold the inside line. Little bit of a wiggle there from Altis. That's going to allow for Todd Liston to fight for his position back down to the inside through 1 and 2.
Now Altis is starting to struggle a little bit now on the tires. He was trying to really push hard, remember, to try and get past some of these cars. Chris Davis currently in the pole position spot provisionally at the moment. Not for long, potentially he's dived underneath Altis as well, as Belkey is now running off and away. The Team CDR machine, your contact. Chris Davis nearly got into the back end of Ruben Altis' car in this grouping.
Good for both drivers there to keep it out of the wall. But this is exactly what happens at the Bullring, Justin. You saw it earlier with Todd Liston, and now it is happening with Ruben Altis, just getting stuck on that outside line. Chris Davis forcing him out a little bit, and that's going to allow for a little bit of an opportunity for Joe Segala to catch up. But James Lowe and Tim Shinowski behind them starting to get very interested as well.
James Lowe has been stuck in 10th this entire run so far with a bit of that damage from that first lap incident involving that 7. But Davis now to 7th. Segala's now up to 8th. Altis now under attack for 9th. As contact, he moved him. Davis up the racetrack. Driving on by his low. The 07 also gets underneath.
And up front, Justin, we've had a pass for the lead. J.R. Shepard able to get by Justin Morton. I completely missed it as it went through. I looked up and Shepard had just gotten it done coming out of turn 4.
That's as they were starting to make contact, believe. Lap 43, corner exit, turn 4. J.R. Shepard was able to make the pass on Justin Morton and has since pulled away by 0.6 of a second. That was after a good amount of speed. Again for Shepard, we mentioned him potentially saving. Now wants to try and run away with the lap traffic now and still. take a look at what happened there. Again, it'll be the lap 43 corner exit for that battle for the race lead. And you can see Morton was really trying to back up the corners, and eventually the bottom would open up where Shepard was able to go underneath. It would be in the exit of turn 4 where he finally got side by side and completed the pass.
And there you see, able to get a good run off of 2 and just dove it down inside, got his nose in there and scared Morton off the apex. Exactly how you got to do a textbook maneuver from J.R. Shepard.
So it's already nearly 9/10 of a second the gap, and the lap traffic is there. The gaggle goes all the way back to 7th spot now, DJ, and this could be dangerous. We talked about the Tour Modified Series race collecting the race leader before. It was around this mark in that race, around this halfway point, where that incident happened to James Lowe. As Kibbe has gotten his way by Morton, Morton's tires have gone off a cliff.
They really have, as we just cross over halfway to go. You mentioned it earlier, Morton always strong in the beginning, and those tires just seeming to fall off the sides of that number 9. And now he is under attack from Mark Herzog as well, who's continued to run a good race. We're right on board with Herzog. Really good job from him to keep up in this leading group and now fighting for a podium.
Ready for him, start on the outside front row. He has kept consistent marks with your top 5 contenders. Now they have to get through the lap traffic as we talked about. Now Bruce Pearson up on the top side takes it away, a line potentially away. Herzog actually misses the bottom line as they start to catch that traffic.
That's going to cost him a couple of tenths. You see him there closing up very quickly, very late on the brakes for Herzog. Little bit compromised off of the exit due to Pearson, but Pearson doing a good job to get out of the way. Now Herzog starting to pressure up behind Morton, trying to get something. Car got a little squirrely off of 4, able to keep it under control, taking a little bit and not able to get that car down to the line. I think his right front's maybe going a little bit more than we let on, Justin.
He is 0.2 of a second slower than your race leaders at the moment in Shepard and Kibbe. Morton is at the moment. We'll have to see if he's able to continue to defend at this rate. Keep in mind, they do have a 6-second cushion to Austin Belkey. 44 laps to go. J.R. Shepard has grown the lead to now 1.4 seconds. And keep in mind, when the rest of these cars are going to be potentially lapped here, it could get chaotic, especially for this fight.
I think chaos may be the understatement of the century when this battle really starts to develop. I'm not going to lie, Justin. As you see there, Herzog maybe thinking about a look up the inside of Morton, but decides better of it. I think right now his strategy is just to try to hold out a little bit, try to pressure Morton into a mistake, make him use up a little bit more of those tires if he can. There you see him trying to get a little bit of overcorrection, a lot of bit of overcorrection there out of turn 2. That car not doing as well as we had hoped. Ooh, forced to miss the apex ever so slightly there, late onto the throttle. Once again, Morton, though, showing his ability as a defensive driver here tonight.
He's really been able to park it on the apexes, but Mark Herzog's been really trying to send it on the entries. That potentially could be shredding those tires, though, as he has to majorly overcorrect to the right once again. 40 laps to go. Those tires might be going away on Mark's car now as a result of his late braking here.
Yeah, you know, you think sometimes if you save for those first 40 laps or so, you can start to attack. And the truth is, if you are in tire conservation mode, you've got to keep it up the entire way. But Justin, jumping to P1, it's about to get very chaotic. J.R. Shepard caught those lap cars.
Trouble.
Oh, and there's contact!
Caution flag is out. It's contact with Mike Allen, and J.R. Shepard has damage. And it's a similar situation to the Tour Modified race we described. Lap traffic ends up battling, involving the race leader with contact, and this could get interesting with J.R. Shepard now.
Very, very interesting. You saw there that was the 11 of Altis having some problems off the line, sticking out of the way. Allen coming down on J.R. Shepard through 3 and 4. I did not think he had this, he did not anticipate the speed from J.R. Shepard that he would be closing, and you can see the damage on that car. Justin, this could get very bad.
We'll see if he keeps it on the track, and does for now, so we'll have to see if he ends up having to use the fast repair here with that. You can see with the steering motion, he, at least on his side, seems to be okay. So there is that. So we'll have to see. But that negates what was already a 2.5 plus lead over Kenny Kibbe. Your lucky dog ends up going to Ruben Altis as a result of a caution flag. So 14 cars on the lead lap.
So it looks like, Justin, that's cosmetic damage that we saw on the car, able to sort of repair itself. One of the glitches of the iRacing system sometimes that happens, but I think that J.R. Shepherd has been able to get out and escape on this scot-free.
Let's just say very lucky. And that describes some of the luck Shepherd has. Sometimes there can be trouble that happens around him, or even involving him, that gives him the bottom line, or ends up helping him gain a couple of spots. In this case, the luck ends up smiling his direction, where any harder, that car would have had to come down to the pit lane likely.
Very, very much so. And one of the other bits of luck for Shepherd in this situation, obviously this resetting the field, he doesn't have to deal with lap traffic now. He's just able to run a good, clean race, potentially to the end, depending on when he catches Bruce Pearson and Mike Allen. It may end up paying massive dividends for that 98.
So your top 10 for this upcoming restart is Shepherd, Kibbe, Morton, Herzog, Belkey, Liston, Lowe, Sagawa, Janowski, and Wolfson. Your top 10 on the racetrack. iRacing pace car is off. The Different Path Motorsports machine has had a dominant start to 2021. He's off and away with 33 laps to go for the Bullring.
Kenny Kibbe forced onto the outside, but able to keep some very good momentum there up for the 14 driver. Looking to the inside ever so slightly. Justin Morton pressuring him. These top four very, very close together. Nobody really making a move. Just a quick glance behind them. Todd Liston looks like he's been caught on the outside line, falling back in the order, but able to slide back in to make everything single file for about the first 10 positions.
James Lowe back to a starting position in 6th for reference. Chris Wolfson's already been shuffled back to 12th spot. Was inside the top 10 before. Contact with a wall for J.R. Shepherd again. These drivers have been constantly dragging the side body against that fence all night, which can lose you some time. Some of these drivers have been getting away with potential damage with how close they begin to the wall. Again, Shepherd nearly hooks into it.
Those tires looking like they may be going off ever so slightly from JR, subconsciously or not. They have used up a little bit more tire wear than he wanted to when he was stuck behind Justin Morton. Morton now obviously defending that third place position from Mark Herzog. Kenny Kibbe not driving too hard here, Justin. Looking like he is just watching and waiting to see what happens.
Still a lot of time to work with, too, with 28 laps to go. We'll have to see how the nocturnal came and goes as Mark Herzog goes around to the front stretch. Caution flag is out. And there goes Mark Herzog's run out the window as he has to turn the car around.
A heartbreak here for Mark, who was having an incredibly good run. Little bit of a wider angle. You see him getting down onto those rumble strips and just unable to catch that car. You know, we were riding on board with Kenny Kibbe. You saw the little bits of opposite lock that he had to put into the car as they came out of turn 4 to just try to catch any potential steer. Obviously a little bit too much for Mark on that getaway, and that sent him spinning around, so that'll put him back in 14th. Rough end for that number 57 driver.
At least first contention for the race victory potentially, unless lots of luck happens. But approaching a quarter way to go, Shepherd, Kibbe, Morton, Belkey, and Lowe now the top 5. James Lowe, a good recovery after being stuck in 10th position after his incident for a good 30-40 laps. Interested what the 99 can do here now, DJ.
I am too, and I also have to say, you know, we talked about sort of a dark horse in Austin Belkey there, able to work his way up 6 positions from his starting position of 10th. He's currently riding in 4th with that great, rare retro throwback scheme. So he is one to watch here. He's starting on the outside, so it'll be a little bit difficult for him, but really good drive from the Michigan driver here tonight.
Absolutely. Austin Belkey from Warren, Michigan. See how he does as Lucky Dog. This caution flag, by the way, as you see, is Bruce Pearson. So that brings us to 15 cars on the lead lap. Only Mike Allen is running one lap down to the racetrack. Your DNF so far are Hardin and Lowell Jewell at the moment. In other words, traffic not expected to be a major factor in these closing stages here. But the main thing's going to be, how do you try and win this race if you're a Kibbe, Morton, or anyone else in this field, especially with Shepard in control of this pack now, looking to win his 5th race in 6 BRL sanction events on the asphalt so far this season?
Well, Justin, I'm not going to lie to any of these drivers. It's not going to be easy to get by J.R. Shepard. The only source of hope that I would be having is seeing just how wide he's been running out of turn 4, scraping the wall like we've seen. If I'm Justin Morton or Kenny Kibbe, I'm definitely thinking about trying to take a wider entrance into 3 and maybe get to the inside of Morton coming out of 4.
Now racing pace car is off. Drivers all set to roll once more. Shepard letting it roll to the restart box. Green flags out, off and away. Kibbe keeps it to the outside.
Oh, and Austin Belkey starts to spin around. I think he may have gotten a little bit too low there and caught the apron just wrong.
Yes, indeed, Austin Belkey, I think actually had help there, and it may have been from James Lowe as it collects Janowski, Kurt Smith, as well as Jason Menda in a stack-up.
Chris Davis getting sandwiched up into that as well. You know, it looks like Belkey was able to carry a lot of good speed into the entrance of turn 1. Had to check up a little bit there behind Justin Morton, and that just allowed for the 99 to just absolutely plow into the back of him, James Lowe, and that big collection down on the apron.
Some drivers likely going to have to use their fast repair now as a result of that incident. There it goes. Some of the momentum drivers like Belkey were gaining throughout this race. Kurt Smith, remember, who was involved in an earlier incident, had been damaged. The 07 had already used his fast repair in the first lap incident. Mike Allen will get the lucky dog. And this continues to now burn green flag laps available for these drivers now. J.R. Shepard now under 19 laps to go, looking to continue to control this field, and this means less time for the rest of the drivers to try and pull their way on forward.
Yeah, it's going to be very difficult, but I will say, having James Lowe up into that 4th place position, if I'm Justin Morton, Kenny Kibbe, and J.R. Shepard, I am not happy about that in any way, shape, or form. He is going to be very fearsome off this restart, although he will be starting the outside of Morton, so that's going to make things a little bit difficult to see when he'll be able to dive down and get to that preferred inside line.
That incident, by the way, got Mark Herzog up to 10th. Chris Davis is still in that provisional pole spot, so keep an eye on that. See how things shape out there. Jason Menda may have gotten away with the majority of the potential damage, has a mostly clean race car from that stack-up effect. But what a start of the season, to say the very least. Caution flags have been something that popped up, but J.R. Shepard looking to try and continue what's been a series-wide dominance for him throughout the history of the Grand National Series for BRL competition as we get the one to go.
It has, but this season it's shown it's not been easy for JR, and now Kenny Kibbe, Justin Morton, and James Lowe looking to take away the victory from the 98.
Tennessee-based driver J.R. Shepard with 16 laps to go, looking to battle with the nocturnal gaming machine of Kenny Kibbe. Green flags out, off and away, and Justin Morton with a great launch on the bottom side. He looks to try and take away 2nd spot. Underneath the quarter panel, the 14 can't get the run as James Lowe keeps it side by side for 3rd.
Amazing momentum for James Lowe on that outside line. He's going to lose out here through 3 and 4. Hopefully he'll be able to slot back in behind Morton, and he indeed does, it looks like, although it doesn't exactly get down to the apex, as we've got a little bit of contact in the back, but I think we're going to stay green.
Jason Menda got a bit of contact. He's got a bit of damage now affecting his left front tire as the cars up at the front continue to scrap. 14 laps to go now. Top 2 have gotten a bumper over Justin Morton and company. Kenny Kibbe looking to try and find his way past the 98, has 13 laps to do it. They're running 15.4s at the moment off this restart.
And Kibbe
trouble.
getting close. We've got a caution.
The 07, Tim Shanowski, goes around. And we're under yellow, and his engine has expired on his car.
Bad luck there for Shanowski. We see right here in the center of your screen, coming to the inside of Chris Davis, catches the lip a little bit wrong, tries to overcorrect, and hard hit into that outside barrier.
Take a look on board here. This was scary if you're Chris Davis and look back to this, because this could have been big.
Oh, missed Davis by absolute millimeters there, did Shanowski. Very, very tough. You know, he just got a little bit too low. I think caught a little bit of that apron wrong coming onto that flat surface versus the, whoo, that is so close, Justin.
That could have been absolute disaster to Chris Davis's night. That was a battle for 10th position. Mark Kurtzong is now in the provisional pole spot with the inversion, keep in mind, with 10 laps to go. That's going to intensify because the difference between starting first and ninth is going to be big. Joe Segawa is the driver who will be looking to scrap with him when the green flag flies. So that's going to intensify, as well as potentially this battle for the race win.
It certainly is. We saw Kibbe able to be a little bit better on the brakes that time out, so I think that's something to watch. You know, it looks like Shepard's tires going away ever so slightly more than we would expect. He's having a little bit of trouble keeping that inside line protected off of the corners. So if I'm Kevin Kibbe, I'm watching that, as well as Justin Morton. We've got to remember that Morton almost had the position on Kibbe through that last restart, but just barely lost out.
Looking like we're going to have about 7 laps to decide it here. And we are approaching that point of no return as well, DJ. How much does that factor in for these drivers now, knowing how the first race of the season ended off?
Well, it basically means that you are taking no prisoners at this point. It is now or never. If you've got an opportunity, tire wear is out the window. You go for it, Justin.
See who's able to go for it successfully here in the closing stages. No signal on the pace car. This time by Shepard, Kibbe, Morton, Lowe, Liston, Wolfson, Altis, Herzog. Your top 4 rows. Right behind them is Segawa and Davis. The top 10 starting positions. 15 cars still running on track. Janowski, Hardin, Jewel are your DNFs for the night. Shepard waits. Shepard gets the box. Shepard launches. Green flag is out. 7 laps to go.
Good start there from Kenny Kibbe, but Justin Morton able to fight back a little bit through turns 1 and 2. Kibbe's going to have some momentum on the outside. Really good run. Morton tries to get down to the inside, but here comes James Lowe fighting back around the outside. That's going to backfire ever so slightly, and it looks like Shepard able to keep it up here, but Kibbe really putting the pressure on the 98.
It's the closest he's been to the back bumper off these restarts in the late going. Can Kibbe get there? 5 laps to go. Approaching the point of no return. This could be for the win. Can Kibbe get himself on by? Can Shepard continue to defend? Morton still hangs on behind these two. 4 laps to go this time.
Kibbe, it looks like, checked himself up a little bit at the apex of 1, trying to get a better launch off of turn 2. Didn't really work for him. He's going to try to dive back down. Here again, Justin Morton, though, really starting to hound Kenny Kibbe. They're separating out ever so slightly, Joe, but Kenny Kibbe is right there trying to do everything he can to minimize the gap to J.R. Shepard as they cross the line.
3 laps to go. Kibbe sends it hard. Shepard clips a little bit of the rumble strips. Kibbe still not able to get the run to peek inside as he takes the wider arc. Right to the back bumper with 2 laps to go. Final stages from the Bullring at Las Vegas.
Kibbe again taking that wider line, trying to get the better run off of 2, but Shepard's momentum able to keep him going there. We saw Kenny Kibbe get a really good run out of this final corner. There he goes. He's starting to put the pressure on. He's got a nose. Can he be late on the brakes? No. Shepard a little bit later on the brakes as the white flag flies.
Final lap as Kibbe clips the apron. Jason Menda has come off the racetrack. He is out of the race. Kenny Kibbe not able to close up in time. And once again, it's J.R. Shepard who wins in the BRL's Grand National Series. It's his 5th win in 6 BRL Asphalt Series races this season. Wow.
Absolutely wow. Kibbe trying to do everything he could. He almost lost second position to Justin Morton, who made a really good dive down to the inside in turn 3 and 4. But Kenny able to hold him off into that corner and take second position. But the winner again tonight, J.R. Shepard, cool under pressure, never breaking, and takes yet another race victory.
He'll get the chance to burn it on down once again. Shepard, back-to-back to start off the new season in the Grand National Series, has been dominant and lights out throughout its history, to say the very least, on Saturday nights as he gets the chance to celebrate. Take a step aside, post-race coverage coming up in just a moment. You're watching the Global SimRacing Channel for the virtual Bullring at Las Vegas. Post-race coverage for the BRL's Grand National Series of the virtual Bullring at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, where tonight was a light show indeed, and those flashbulbs had a lot of pictures to take, to say the very least, as J.R. Shepard is able to hold off Kenny Kibbe in a 7-lap dash to take home his 2nd victory this season in the Grand National Series and his 5th in 6 races on Saturday night so far in BRL competition. Kenny Kibbe finishes in 2nd, Justin Morton in 3rd. Those drivers will be standing by for post-race coverage in just a few moments, while James Lowe and Todd Liston rounded out your top 5. Ruben Altzies recovered from some earlier troubles to 6th place, while Chris Wolfson bounced everywhere from 12th all the way back to 7th for the checkered. Mark Herzog finished in the provisional pole spot to round out the top 8. Rounding up the top 10, Austin Belkey and Kurt Smith, your top 10 overall DJ.
Joe Segala coming home in the 11th position, followed by Mike Allen. Chris Davis, you saw him have some contact late in the race there, demotes him all the way down to 13th. Bruce Pearson in 14th. Jason Menda unable to finish the race on the lead lap, 2 laps down. And then your non-finishers, Tim Shinuski, Jeffrey Harden, and series organizer Lowell Jewell in 18th.
So 3 drivers not able to take home the checker flag in tonight's action, and what was an intense one, to say the very least, especially the closing stages. But in the end, it's J.R. Shepard with the checker flag. Kibbe, who comes home in 2nd. Justin Morton, who comes home in 3rd in this one. J.R. Shepard now joins us after leading 58 of 100 laps in a 5-caution race. J.R., you've won your 5th race in 6 events on Saturday nights in BRL competition. How are you feeling after what's been a dominant start for you for 2021?
I really enjoy racing at this track. Just first of all, it's a lot of fun, very line sensitive, and you got to stay top on what the car's doing. So it's really cool. We've had a lot of luck on our side and a lot of guys racing us clean. So that plays into a lot of it.
Indeed, some of the luck we've seen throughout the night, but tonight you had some scary moments. Talk us through when the incident happened with the traffic, where there was the near possibility of damage on the right front coming in from that contact.
Yeah, I definitely did not want to see that. I knew when I caught those lap cars and Kenny was behind me, Kenny was going to be fast. He always is. And it was the last third of the race, so I knew I needed to not lose as much as a gap, or keep as much as a gap as I possibly could to Kenny. And when I saw the opportunity to try to pass the lap cars, I went to the inside, and I went into turn 3 really easy because I had a bad angle. And next thing I know, one of the lap cars came down. He probably thought he was just too wide and had cleared the other guy. So I apologize for the contact, but I don't know what I could have done different there as trying to maintain that gap.
Now, next race heads off to the state of Florida. It is Five Flags. That is the next scheduled track. Your thoughts on going to that circuit where you have a lot of momentum once again for 2021?
Yeah, Five Flags is it's very racy. We usually have 2 grooves show up there, so it'll be interesting to see. You might be able to get a lot of side-by-side racing and make some passes. So yeah, it'll be cool to go there. It's not been one of my best tracks because of my driving style, but we'll see if we can bring home a good finish.
Who do you want to thank for the run tonight?
Yeah, just thanks to the Bootleg Racing League and Lowell for everything he does to help us be able to race each and every Saturday night. It's a lot of fun, and to Different Path Motorsports for being on board. And yeah, we look forward to racing the rest of the season.
Congratulations on the victory tonight, JR.
Yeah, we appreciate you guys. Thank you.
JR Shepard, once again, to victory lane in the BRL's Grand National Series. Second place was Kenny Kibbe. He finished 4/10 back of Shepard. He's with DJ Clark.
Kenny, I thought for sure you were going to have a couple of runs there on JR in the closing stages of the race, but action packed all the way through. Talk us through the quick turns of this bull ring.
Yeah, so we had a decent starting spot, and just was going to try to methodically make our way through the field. And JR got behind us and was really pressuring me, and it just became too much. So I didn't fight him too hard, and just thought, even though he was going to be hard to pass later, which proved to be true, I was just going to follow him through the field. So we're following him, and eventually we get to first and second, and I thought I was running kind of harder than I wanted to the first half of the race, but turned out we had a really good piece in the second half of the race. So I just kept doing what I was doing, and I thought we were starting to catch JR a little bit, and he got to that big group of lappers, and they got into it. And man, I just wanted more green flag runs. We had that caution, and it kind of led to more cautions, and we had some really good restarts, but it's just so tough on the high side to make a pass. And every time we seemed to get settled in and ready to make a move, another caution would come out, and just kind of ended our opportunities.
Yeah, that was my thoughts exactly. I thought if you had stayed a little bit clean, you could have been able to get down to the inside. But, I mean, how frustrating is that for you as a driver when you just see those yellows when you think you've got to run and you're going to be able to go?
Yeah, I mean, it seemed to be like the perfect timing every caution, and except for that first one. The first one I was quite a ways back, but it was like, man, we would just get settled in, and I would be just about ready to start trying to make a move and setting him up, and then the caution would come out, and I'd have to reset. And I knew, Justin and James back there were fast, so I knew there was a chance I was going to have to fend them off. So it's a time thing where, like, okay, now I have to waste more time to be able to go after the lead again. And, there's only so many laps in a race. So that's kind of the frustrating part of it. I mean, who knows if I really could have passed him, but I gave it a really good try at it.
Well, I mean, we were certainly cheering you on in the booth and loving the action. Well, we head from the desert to the swamp next week, headed down to Five Flags, and we heard JR say that, it's a little bit of a different track. You can a lot of times get 2 grooves going there. So how do you feel about your chances there?
Yeah, it's been a little while. Well, I guess we ran these cars there last season, but I love Five Flags. It's one of my favorite short tracks. Just going to have to keep the car clean and get through the traffic, and keep the tires underneath it. Turn 4 is really tricky, getting back on the throttle off of turn 4 with how it's kind of swooping onto this front straightaway. And you don't want to push into turn 1, and you want to keep the car on the bottom and not fry your right front off. But if we can do all those things, I think we'd have just as good of a shot next week as we did this week.
Well, we'll be watching for sure. Kenny, before we let you go, anybody you need to thank tonight?
Yeah, just everybody, the Bootleg Racing League for showing up every night, and you guys at Global SimRacing Channel for broadcasting every week. The Motor Sports Drop for being with us, and the JR, great job with his wins tonight, and we had some good battles tonight, like we usually do. So yeah, it was a pretty decent run tonight.
Well, that was your second place finisher, Kenny Kibbe. And now Justin has caught up with our third place finisher, the number 9 of Justin Morton.
Yes, indeed. And Justin, you were able to hold on to a podium finish tonight. How was that car handling, especially in the second half of that race, as you had led the initial 34 laps or so of this race?
Yeah, I thought it felt pretty good. Maybe a little tight on exit, but most of that race I was just trying to conserve and just try to hang on, and ended up getting third from it, so it worked out for me.
How difficult has it been to try and make sure you properly save the tires without either losing the right rear, which seemingly happened last week, or losing the right front, which drivers were struggling with tonight, especially in the main pack?
Yeah, it's a really hard thing to balance. You don't want to lose either of them, but at some point you have to use them up if you want to go fast, and it's really saving them till the end, till that's when you really want to push and then use them up then.
What would you have done differently tonight when thinking back to try and get the checker flag tonight then?
Probably needed to turn in a bit later. I think that was the big thing, that JR and Kenny were doing better than me. They were squaring off the turn and I was just scrubbing the right front. I think that was my biggest issue.
Now, next race, 5 Flags. Your thoughts on going over to that racetrack?
I like the track. I struggle with it. Hopefully this time around I'll be able to pick it up and maintain this top 3 for the season. So see how it goes.
Anyone you want to thank for your run tonight?
Yeah, I'd like to thank my team, Till Downforce Racing, Pixel Dust for the amazing paint, Lowell for running the league. It's such a great league. If you haven't and you're considering it, please join us. It's a really great group. And thank you guys for broadcasting.
Congratulations on the run tonight, Justin.
Thank you.
Justin Morning coming home with third tonight. That was him, Kenny Kibbe, and JR Shepard joining us for post-race coverage. I'd like to thank them for taking the time to do so for tonight's action. Now, DJ, your quick final thoughts on this one, where JR Shepard does it again from the top inversion spot, from the heart of the pack to the front of the field, all within the span of less than half the race.
Justin, we say time and time again how hard it is to pass sometimes on these short tracks, and every single time JR Shepard seems to prove us wrong. I'm going to be very, very excited to watch next week 2-lane racing potentially at 5 Flags. I think that's going to throw a real wrench into the works, and I think you may see a different winner.
We'll have to see. But we'd like to thank you for tuning in to tonight's exciting action from the virtual Bullring. We'd also like to thank the Bootleg Racing League for organizing this exciting series. We'd also like to thank the companies who provide the software and hardware for our broadcast, listed up on screen, with additional thanks going to Jude Luan, who provides her wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. We'd also like to thank the team today once again in DJ and Sean. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. If you'd like to support the channel, you can check the merchandise for sale at gsrc.stormdy.com. Or you can check our social media on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global SimRacing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. Don't forget to head over to our YouTube page and hit that big red subscribe button, as well as the notification bell, so you don't miss a moment of the Global SimRacing Channel. As talked about, the next race goes to 5 Flags Speedway on January 23rd. Be sure to tune in. Green Flag starts at approximately 9:05 p.m. Coverage begins at approximately 8:50 p.m. Eastern Time. Also be sure to stick around where action continues on GSRC, where self-sound action hits the racetrack. But until then, we have upcoming races for other series listed on your screen as well, so be sure to check those out and mark them down your calendar. Until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.